Welcome to the Quantum Revenue Expansion Podcast. My name is Ursula, and I'm a sales expert, strategic business coach, and USA Today bestselling author. I love sharing strategies that show you exactly how to turn your annual revenue into your monthly revenue. If you're looking to take a quantum leap in your revenue or sales, your team, your productivity, your success, and your life, then you are meant to be here. My goal in every episode is to help you take your belief that it's possible to 2x or 10x your revenue while working way less to knowing that it is happening right now. Hey everybody, welcome back to Quantum Revenue Expansion, where we talk about turning your annual income into your monthly income. I'm your host, Ursula, and I'm back for part 2 with the amazing Rebekah Hall. And last week we shared 5 of the 10 lessons that's transformed our businesses and our lives. And we're back to share the other 5 lessons. And I want to make this clear, hopefully if you haven't listened to part 1, go back and listen, because otherwise some of this might not make sense. Rebekah and I did not pre-plan this. I told her, I said, I want you to come up with your 5 lessons. I'll come up with mine. And so far they've been very different and things that we hadn't thought about, which is awesome because I could relate to all of hers and I know she could relate to mine and we have stories. And remember, if you didn't listen to the first one, this is not the preachy podcast. These are just things that we're sharing for business owners because we wish we would have known these things. They come up often with our clients and they're lessons that hopefully will help inspire you before the new year begins to make some changes or to look at things differently in your business. So let me highlight what we covered last time.
Yeah.
So we started by talking about you wished you'd set boundaries sooner, which is a big hot topic. And then I talked about that I wished I would have used my intuition sooner. I wish I would have known how to use my intuition sooner. And then Rebekah talked about how important it is to know what you don't want first when it comes to figuring out what you do want. And often we're just tolerating so many things and we don't even know. But if you're like, I don't know what I want for 2025, well, make a list of all the things you don't want right now. And you'll pretty clearly know when you look on the other side of that, what you do want.
Right.
And then, so then I shared that I didn't realize that my number one job as a business owner was to make decisions all day long. I had decision fatigue and I kind of was angry about having decision fatigue until I realized that that really was my number one job, but I needed to figure out, well, am I focusing on the right things? Are these the needle movers that I'm making decisions on? So how to prioritize those things versus, delegating some of that decision-making to my team. And then finally, Rebekah shared that it's not just about working hard. We know a lot of people who work hard who aren't very successful. In fact, as Gen Xers, we've had to learn from new generations who've taught us that it's okay to work 25 hours a week. In fact, a lot of our clients work 25 or less. What would you want to add to what I highlighted, Rebekah? And welcome back.
Man, I wish I had a time machine where I could take these things and go back to my 20s.
Oh, imagine. We would make so much money. Oh my gosh.
Well, not even about so much money,
real estate.
So much everything.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think back about all the bad real estate decisions I made. If I could go back, there was a lot there.
Yeah. I would have invested in Bitcoin right when it came out.
Bitcoin, Apple, Microsoft, Zoom. Yeah. The list is long.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to kick us off because we left off with yours. So I'm going to jump to my my third one. This one might make you laugh because you've had to be in the trenches with me, but I would have made changes and pivoted faster. Sometimes it took me a little bit longer to catch on that I should let somebody go, or I didn't want to let somebody go, or I should change a class, or our clients had outgrown a certain coaching program. Sometimes I just hung on to things and hung on to them and thought the next one's going to be better. This is going to be different. And this kind of ties back to the first one I shared was listening to my intuition. I kind of knew. I knew sooner than I would make the decisions. And a part of that was just, not having the confidence one, like to make team changes, like I keep believing in people. And to your other lesson about boundaries, like I just hadn't set the relationship up correctly. I hadn't set
Mhm.
the job up correctly. I hadn't set the role up correctly. So of course it got ugly. Of course it wasn't effective. Or, just wasn't keeping the pulse on what our clients needed. Now, like that is something that we do much better and much faster, and it's made a big difference. So what are your thoughts on that, because you've lived that with me?
I mean, and I've done some of that,
Yeah.
like I think one of the gifts you get getting older, and I would also say maybe it's just my generation because I see this in younger kids a little bit quicker, is like, yeah, this hesitation to like just go for it or like, because you think there's like death on the other side, right? Like I
Yeah.
think when in my early 20s, 30s of running business, you know, I would go from like, I'm either going to make it or be homeless. Like there's always this threat of homelessness. And then when I was a single mom, then it's like I'm homeless under a bridge with my kid and he's dirty and has a little cup out begging for money. And it's like, it's such a
Catastrophizing,
farce, right?
catastrophizing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a farce because I have three siblings and I could have stayed at their house for sure, or friends or whatever. And so, um, it's just so, it's like a funny thing that keeps you like, the truth is you have no idea what's going to happen ever. And most of the time, the worst thing actually isn't going to happen. You just like, you fear it. And so, yeah, like, just, yeah, go for it. Like, I understand when older people are like, don't live with regrets. Like, just go for it. Like, now I'm that person that's like, it'll be okay. Like, you'll figure it out. You'll be fine.
I mean,
So yeah, it's funny.
it's like, well, you did live in the like, what's the worst thing that could happen, which is like, I'll be living under a bridge and Austin will have a cup and he'll be holding it out and he'll be very dirty. And like, that's, you and I used to catch each other a lot we both used to catastrophize a lot, and we
Hmm.
don't anymore. Like, we've done a lot of work. Like, I want to just say, like, you and I have worked hard to
Yeah.
be better.
My wife
That's,
says it'll be fine. She says you say it'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. She says you say that all the time now.
you do.
Yeah. So that's a big change for me
What
because
does
I
that
believe
mean
it.
when you say it? When you say it, what are you thinking?
I'm really not worried. I mean, I think I've talked on other episodes, or I've definitely talked with our clients about, I diagnosed myself with living what's called with anticipation anxiety.
Yes, right.
Where it's like I so try to figure out what could happen and I want to be prepared for that. And so the amount of energy I have to expend to maintain that vigilance of the worst thing happening was exhausting.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to say I've been on this planet long enough and had enough experiences that most of the time the worst thing's never going to happen, not even close. And the truth is I've figured out business. Like, it's so funny. I'm like 20, what is this, 2024? I'm 22 years, almost 23 years in business.
Yeah.
I've figured it out that long. I think I'm going to be okay. And, I've got some other things like investments and things like that I've been a little smart on, and I've made a lot of mistakes, and that's fine. But,
Mhm.
yeah, you start trusting yourself a little bit more. You start trusting the universe, like God, whatever you believe in, like, and then you realize the things that you thought were like, that's why we were talking in the last episode about, decisions. Like,
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
decisions are you really just that weigh so heavily that just don't need to be? I think it's just my daughter-in-law was like, I was talking about, I got to make all these doctor appointments. You turn 50 and your doctor's like, okay, time for this I'm like, that now I get why old people just talk about that. And then my daughter was like, I don't want to get old. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like the freedom you have from your own mind when you get older is so refreshing. So yeah, I'd say, that it's just part of it. And you always hope that, like, as coaches too, I would say, part of why we love coaching is, like, we've been through some stuff, we've seen some stuff, and if we can help you get there faster by being like, hey, I've been at this crossroads before, like, if I could just give you some advice and circumvent whatever, save you
Yeah.
time, Like that's what's so rewarding, right? And so I think that's just part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, worst case things definitely, um, they don't happen. We see things behind us. We have 2020 vision. When we look back, it's like, oh, okay, I get that thing. But I think like when you slow down and you realize, you know, impact happens one moment at a time, one
Mhm.
day at a time.
Mhm.
Quantum leap happens one day at a time. It happens because you pay attention to what you really want and you start to make decisions that move you in that direction. All of a sudden you've had a quantum leap.
Yeah.
It's like just, I just now when I'm okay with change. I think that's the other thing. It's like
Yeah.
um and when you talk about age and being 50, like we have 70-year-old clients and above who listen and they're like, "You're young. Like what are you talking about?" I think one of the gifts is like at this time in our lives, we have checked a lot of the boxes. Like I remember starting my business, still wanting to plan a family. So shout out to the parents out there, right? Like you and I had different
Mhm.
timelines, but now like I like that a lot of that, my son is older now and like we've just done a lot of things. And so now I feel like there's this space in my head that I didn't have
Mhm.
before so that you and I could have multiple businesses or, have a lot more things that we have going on.
Yeah. I think it becomes yeah, shout out to all the people that are older than us.
Yes.
And I know that I still have a lot to learn and everything, but there's something there's an exhale. Like you get to a point where you can exhale a little bit, and that just it doesn't mean you're all knowing. It just means that you got space to breathe. And
Yeah.
it just feels like in your 20s and 30s you don't have space to breathe. And based on how we grew up or the times or whatever was happening, like you just appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Moving on to your number 4.
Line number 4. I don't know. This might be triggering to some people.
Okay.
So the type of business doesn't matter. Like what I've learned is business is business is business, and definitely there's nuances. I've definitely fallen in the trap of getting stuck, and I've worked with people that are stuck because they think their business is so unique. No, 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 you don't understand. I'm different than every other accountant out there, and the truth is you are. And I've talked about this in the past where it's like, look, if it, every house needs a foundation and it needs structure, right? But
Mhm.
how you decorate that house is like really up to you. It doesn't really affect the structure. It's what creates the uniqueness or however you want to operate on a daily basis. But like every business needs marketing, every business needs sales. I also talk about like we all live in America, and yet like English sounds a little bit different depending on what part of the country you are.
Yeah.
Or like you have certain vernacular, right? And you catch on pretty quick. And so it's really like at the end of the day, though, we're all kind of living under like the same structure ish. And, and, and that can be refreshing too, because you can be a much different accountant or a
Yeah.
much different, uh, naturopath, right? Like you can definitely put your spin on it. And we talk a lot about, how do you get to that place? And it's like knowing who your target market is exactly, like so that you have relatability.
Yeah.
Like if you're still listening to this podcast after like 1, 2, 3, 4 episodes, like there's some relatability in how we present ourselves, how we think about things, like that's just us energetically working together on whatever we're trying to provide and what you're trying to receive. And I'm
Mhm.
sure there's people that are like, oh my gosh, like I so don't resonate with that. Like that doesn't work for me. I don't want to do it that way. I disagree. Like, great. Like there's plenty of people on this planet and plenty of opportunities and plenty of customers and plenty of options that you can really just like intentionally design your niche. But
Yeah.
you still kind of have to follow the laws. Like, no one survives our planet by never sleeping.
Well, what you're saying too is like you talk about this a lot. You teach this that every business has 5 functions, right?
Mhm.
And when you understand the 5 functions, you can run just about any business. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the five
And
functions? Don't talk, you don't have to go into detail, but like high
yeah,
level.
so every business has marketing, every business has sales, every business has finance, every business has fulfillment, you know, or customer service, like, and every business has operations.
Yeah.
And you can like delineate that more and say, well, like leadership and culture and, but like I'm talking about structure because leadership can look a lot of different ways or whatever, but you do have to have those pieces. Just like
Mhm.
every human needs sleep, community, water, shelter. You can't survive without those things and be like, I'm a human that never needs sleep. I sleep 0 hours every day. Like, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
But, some people are morning people and some people are night people. And like, so you have those nuances, but we can get related. We can find our path. We can find our place as a business owner and entrepreneur with our unique stuff when we have the basics.
Yeah.
And so I've just, I felt misunderstood. Like I needed a certain thing. Like, in fact, one of the biggest coaching breakthroughs I ever had as a client
Yeah.
was a bunch of us that did the same business went and did some training, and we outwardly high-fived each other on the way to this conference because we're like, we're going to kill it. Like, strength in numbers, right, guys? Like, we all get each other. We're going to really kill this. And reflecting back, I didn't get anything from those people. The biggest breakthroughs in
Wow.
my business and in my personal life was like being with other business owners who they didn't need to know what my business was. They just needed to understand being an entrepreneur. And they
Yeah.
were older than me. And so they were able to give me some advice or point out something that because they didn't understand what I did, they're like, well, what about this? And I was like, never even thought about that because, if you just live in the same place in the same neighborhood and it's the same people, like, yeah, you get consistency, but you don't get variety. You don't get other possibility because this is the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
And so, I've really taken that on there. It's like, I'm open to how businesses done in other countries, how other people do it, how other people coach, like how other people market. Like, I'm open to that because everything's an evolution. You hear me say that all the time. Everything evolves. Everyone's got choice and free will. There's always variables. Trying to control those things just doesn't work. And so,
Yeah.
you be clear about the problem you solve, the need you meet, who you do that for, how you do it, and what the value is to them for having that problem solved or that need met. Like that is the basis of any business. And then how you dress that up, like how much you want to work, what you want to charge, like all that actually falls into place pretty naturally. And you can take a lot from other people and still be unique,
Yeah.
but not so unique that you're not relatable to anybody and you're just going to try and figure it out on your own.
Yeah. Beautiful. Right. So the type of business doesn't matter as much as like just knowing the five functions and how to run it. And you mentioned how much you charge. So I'm going to go to my fourth one. And so this is, this one we work with our clients a lot on. And it was definitely one from the beginning that I wish I would have changed. So my lesson was I would have raised my prices sooner.
Mm, yeah.
And, back and what's crazy is I went to a coaching program, which was amazing. It was amazing. And most of the time when you go to coaching programs, they don't include, they don't include a lot of or any training on marketing or sales on the coaching business because that's not what they do.
Mm-hmm.
They're just getting you certified, teaching you how to coach. That's their promise, their premise. And so when I was at coaching training and people were talking about, charging $100 a session or whatever, I was like, because my goal was 20,000 a month then. I'm like,
Yeah.
that is gonna, I can't figure that out. Like the numbers were not adding up. So I'd gone from running a 20 million, somebody else's $20 million company. I had a big, big old nice base salary. I was getting $50,000 a month commission checks. Like I was living large in my corporate world
Mm-hmm.
and, being president of a company. And then I left and started my own company and decided I was going to be a coach. And then someone told me, they're like, oh, it's, $100 an hour per session. That's what you charge. And I thought, what have I done? Somewhere along the way, though, I learned that there were these other coaches and there were these other consultants And there were people like Tony Robbins who were charging, 7 figures just for email coaching, right? Just to email him and get some answers with 7 figures a year. And I thought, wow, there's room for expansion here. And then I started to invest in my own coaching. And what I realized was that the more that I invested, given these were great coaches, right? Solid coaches, the more I invested in coaching and community, the faster my business grew.
Mm-hmm.
So then it occurred to me that I was actually doing a disservice by not having programs that were in alignment with the kind of clients I wanted to work with who were ready to make big moves in their company, right? From, in the beginning, 5,000, then 10,000, then 25,000, and then $100,000 packages. And, just realizing that the more people invested, the bigger moves they could make too. So
Yeah.
that was a huge lesson, because I could have made it all about me. Oh, I can't charge so much because that's about me. No, actually, when I look at this is the value that it provides for my client, because I saw what happened to me when I invested at a high level, that shifted everything for me.
Yeah, I think, but part of it too is like you already had an idea of like the like who you are being or who you wanted to be or the life you wanted. And so that's what makes it like relatable. Like the issue when people don't charge enough is then on the other side there's a confidence of delivery or
Yeah.
quality.
Yes.
Right? And that's not bad. It's not to say like, but if you're mismatched in that because you have imposter syndrome or you don't understand the value or you don't understand the value that the other person puts in what you're trying to do, it just leaves a lot of heartache, right? It's not
Right.
even about the money. It's like you don't find that rhythm. Right.
Yeah.
I always talk about like the emergency room. Like that's like the best business because everyone is clear why they're there. Right.
Right.
There's no like, you don't go to the
Perfect.
emergency room and you're like, so I have an emergency. I cut off my finger. I'd like to talk to like 3 doctors, maybe get some testimonials. Do you have any gallery pictures? Like, is the price negotiable? Like, that is just such a clear transaction. Like, I have an emergency. I'm dying or I'm in and I just need someone to fix it like yesterday, like whatever it looks like, right? And I know business can't be like that all the time, but to give you an extreme to shoot for, right? Where
Right.
it's like, price is a big part of the alignment of value and transaction. And so,
Mhm.
you know, clearing that stuff that you have around, am I worth it or is this valuable? Like, I hope you know it's valuable for
Right.
the right person.
Yeah.
And then that just creates like a culture of community and of just brand awareness and knowing that people feel comfortable on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If I buy like a really expensive car, I guess that's a bad because you have the Land Rovers and I always bag on those. But like if I spend good money on something, I expect it to last or you
Yeah.
know or go out a certain way. And
Like,
then if it's not, then I get surprised, right? Where it's like, oh,
mhm.
this thing only costs this much money and it's still kicking. Like it makes me question a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right? Or you don't trust it, like, oh well, it didn't work. I didn't expect it to because it didn't cost a lot.
Mm.
So I would say, what do they call it? It's called price psychology.
Yeah.
Is definitely something to look into to
Yeah.
understand that because it's what something costs is not what makes or breaks a sale or
Yeah. Can
what
you
people
share your
think.
example about the guy who fixes the thing? I just love that story.
Like, I don't even know where I picked that up from, but there's just a story that goes around about, a manufacturing plant or something. Like just imagine a bunch of a busy manufacturing plant, tons of workers, tons of things happening. It's on an assembly line, and it's moving, and something happens, and the whole assembly line shuts down. So you're not producing any product, and your workers are like, "What do we do now?" And so, if you're in charge of that, then you're like panicking. You're like, number one priority, I got to get this thing up and working again. And so it talks about this guy. He calls someone who comes over and he's like, what's the problem? And he tells him, and he goes, okay. And he goes over to like some panel or something and turns a screw, and then like everything starts running again. And the manager's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, just send me a bill. This is like crazy. And he's like, yeah, got it. And he sends him a bill for 10 grand. And the manager's like, I'm gonna have to. Can you add more to this? Like, I don't know how I'm gonna get this through, my boss to pay this. Like, that's a lot of money. And so the guy's like, absolutely. So he sends them, like, he adjusts the invoice and says something like, $10,000. Turning the screw was like $500, and then $9,500 was having the knowledge to know which screw to actually turn. And
Amen.
like, that's what you're paying for, is you're paying for that knowledge or the expertise or whatever. And everything, like you said, that they've invested in,
Yeah.
right? Like, doctors are expensive. Like, they also have huge student loans, and they gave up 7 years of their life. And I get it's not blanket, and it's not to be controversial, but it is like paying homage to someone who's like put in the dedication and the work and the hours. And just,
You mentioned this. One of the cool things you do with our clients is the 720 plan, because the 720 plan isn't just about how I plan my work time. It's like really how you plan everything else first, your hobbies, your fun, all those things. And I can think of one client just off the top of my head who has embraced this through some incredible life changes, and who's doing has amazing hobbies now and has friends, and like is learning like how to spend her time doing all these other things. So love that. So true. And this ties to my last, I know we're almost out of time. My last lesson, my last life lesson that I wish I would have known before, my fifth one that really ties to what you were just talking about. And again, we haven't overlapped. I mean, it's like a tiny bit, but we haven't had the same life lessons, which is really fun. So I would have understood money how making more money or increased money coming into my life through the business actually showed me that I was making a bigger impact. So I would have connected money and impact sooner. Like in the beginning, I thought, oh, I'm so lucky if someone pays me. It's like, really? No, like they're getting, like Rebekah, I mean, we have testimonials from clients whose lives have been changed for like generations. And they've said that like their kids' lives will be different because of their financial success. Like we've made that impact. Now our clients had to be willing to do the work. They had to be willing to be coachable. But if we wouldn't have raised our hands and said, hey, like we're here because we want to make an impact. Like my mission, the mission of the company is to help entrepreneurs make a lot of money so they can give back to the organizations that they care about and live a great life. For those who've been paying attention, you've gotten a whole bunch of emails about the Great Give Back, which we do in November and December. This is our third annual Great Give Back. As I'm saying this, it's now closed. As you're listening to the recording, that is closed. I'm sharing this though, because the Great Give Back is all about, if you've donated to your favorite charity, or you've been even part of a membership group, which is a 501c6, also nonprofit, you qualified to join us at a Profit Accelerator. We gave this incredible give back. There's lots of other cool things we're doing. So I'm sure you're already getting emails about like the new next cool thing, because I've got a lot of plans for ways that we can support. But that's the mindset it comes from. It's like, I think about the domino effect every single day. When someone invests with us, they're going to expand. Their business is going to grow. They're going to have more money in their bank account. That's going to impact their family. That's going to impact the organizations that they give back to. Like entrepreneurs, to me, entrepreneurs run the world. Just look around. Like, look at our last election. Entrepreneurs make an impact every single day. And the more money they have, the bigger impact they can make. So yeah. And by now, there's another amazing, like check the show notes, because we have something cool going on. As I'm recording this, we're putting plans together for the next thing. So I don't want to fully announce it because I have to fine tune a few things, but there will be an opportunity for you to connect with us in another way inside the show notes. So check that out. Rebekah Hall, thanks for hanging out with us and for sharing the lessons you've learned. Loved having you as always. And I know our listeners love it. And to all of you, as you're wrapping up 2024, like really, really take the time to think about what you want to shift or create. And know that I have an upcoming podcast. It's happening on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve morning happens to fall on a Tuesday. It's a podcast day. So New Year's Eve morning, I'm going to be sharing my hottest tips on how to create a vision board that will transform your 2025. It's how I ended up in Egypt. I know it's one of the reasons why Rebekah Hall and I, it was tied to like our new partnership, a new coaching company that we've launched, something else we have going on. Like so much came from doing that. So I'm going to pull back the curtains and share how we do that and what we do for our clients. And there'll be more giveaways there because that's my love language. So stay tuned for that on January 31st. All right, everybody, that's it for this week. Make this your most epic month yet. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to leave a review on iTunes so I know what you like and can create content that guides you to up-level your business even more. If you want more strategic business tips, follow me on social media. You'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and you can visit my website at www.ursulainc.co. I love being on this journey with you and can't wait to connect with you on the next episode. In the meantime, make this your most epic month yet.